Now that you know the tools that will help you determine proper exposure, it's time to learn how to properly expose your image. In this video, I begin that process by taking a look at the exposure triangle. So I have a question for you. Between the following two exposures, which one is correct? A 180-degree shutter with an ISO of 200 at a T5.6 or a 45-degree shutter at ISO 400 at a T2.8? Well, it's a trick question. They're both the same exposure level, so either one could be right or either one could be wrong, or they both could be right or they both could be wrong. That is determined what kind of look you're after. Even though they are at the same level, they produce very different looks. So the first question you have to ask yourself as you go out to create your image is, what do I want my footage to look like? Or an even better way to ask it is to ask, what kind of image will serve the story I'm trying to tell the best? Do you want a lot of motion blur in your image or a little? If you use a longer shutter, you'll get more motion blur. If you use a shorter shutter, you will get less motion blur. Do you want a deep depth of field or do you want a shallow depth of field? The more open your aperture, the shallower your depth of field. The more closed your aperture, the deeper your depth of field becomes. As you answer these questions, not only are you determining the look of your final image, but you're beginning to use what's referred to as the exposure triangle. Each choice you make when it comes to shutter, ISO, and aperture has a direct impact on the other settings and needs to be taken into account. Your goal when using the exposure triangle is to create a balanced exposure that creates the look that you're after. So let's take a look at some specific examples.